I'm inherently lazy. That is true. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is a beautiful day. So we're gonna do something that I need to get done before the winter. Is I need to hook the plow up to the avalanche and I need to bring it into the garage. It needs a couple of little repairs and make sure it's functioning properly because we are now sitting at November 7th, November 8th today, and the snow is coming. As you can see in some of my previous videos, we've already had snow. Not a lot of it, but we've had some, so way too early. We had snow before Halloween and it stuck around for a week. It was incredible. So we're going to do a little repair on that snowplow like I mentioned. I'll also do a 2-year review of SNOWBEAR fully hydraulic and articulated plow. I purchased this 2 years ago. I've used it for 2 seasons currently. We have a fairly large driveway, so I will give you a small review of what I think of the plow after owning it for 2 years, the trouble I've had with it, and the bonuses of owning it. So why don't we go outside there and let's hook it up to the avalanche and bring it in the garage. Alright guys, we got it in the garage. I have to say that me mounting it on the vehicle, that was a bit of an unfair example of how it goes on the vehicle. Simply because I had dumped it off of the truck in a hurry in the spring because we had a family emergency and we needed the truck. So I had just pulled the pins, lowered the legs, and I had just backed out. I hadn't set it up on the wheels or anything. Just to let you know, so this is its 2nd season, or I've used it for 2 seasons so far. Am I happy with it? I would say I am content. It normally does the job I need it to do. I wish I had spent more money on possibly the Boss version of this plow, the fully hydraulic plow. I guess my mindset or my thought at the time was that the Boss plow was $7,000 and this was only $4,500. So there was quite a bit of difference in pricing. I did assemble this myself and installed it onto my vehicle. Had to remove the bumper fascia and all that stuff to get the bracket on. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. So let me just give you a quick run around the plow and explain to you some of the features that it has. Alrighty, so if you guys noticed when I mounted it on the vehicle itself, what it does have is it has a bracket that's attached to the actual frame horns. And that required the removal of my front bumper fascia and some trimming of the fascia and the removal of the lower air deflector, which was not that big of a deal. So that bracket stays on the truck. And then like you saw, you just pull up to the plow. It's intended to slide on nice and quick and nice and easy. That is a little false in the terms of if you're a little bit uneven, if you're trying to drop it outside in the gravel or on a snowbank, that's not going to work very well for you. If you had a nice paved garage floor like I do, well, it's not nicely paved, but if you have a paved garage floor, it does drop on the floor and go back onto the vehicle very well. But here, I'll give you a closer look at it. Now this This, like I said, is only 2 years old. And if you look at, there is significant rust. Now last year, or last summer, this unit spent the summer in a portable garage, so it didn't see any of the elements. This year it did sit outside, but it was tarped for the season. So you can see there is some significant rust, mostly surface rust, mostly the paint coming off here and here. Now I have to say, I am very disappointed with the paint used, the paint finish. I'm not sure if it's a powder coat. I believe it is a powder coat, but if you look at the front of the blade, the delamination of the paint is quite excessive. So last year I had touched it up before the beginning of the actual season, and the paint's all come off it again. So another feature this unit had that I kind of thought was pretty cool at the time was a wireless remote. And this is the remote here, and there's a control box that's under the hood. I'll show you guys that. Do I like the wireless remote? I like it in the sense that when I'm outside of the vehicle and I need to lift it or move it, you know, to help me put it back on the truck or take it off the truck, it is very convenient. When you're in the vehicle and you're plowing with it, I find it very inconvenient. And the reason why I say that is because I plow mostly in the evening when it's dark. And this, you eventually build up a muscle memory of where the buttons are. But even though I know where they are in the most part in the dark, there's no indexing. There's no little bumps on them to tell me which one it is. You know, something that I could feel with my finger, something tactile would be really nice. So that I know that when I feel this, if I feel a bump, I know that's my up. And if I feel another bump here, I know that's my down. And oftentimes when you end up coming up to a snowbank or something, I end up pressing the wrong button. The plow turns, does something that I don't want it to do. I find that very inconvenient. I honestly think this plow, a joystick inside of the truck, I think would be a much better idea. And apparently you can get them. I just haven't really looked into it because I'm inherently lazy. That is true. I spend most of my time doing videos now, so I don't have much time, you know? This is the wireless control unit. This is what receives the signal. See the little green light on it? So it has an antenna on it. I have to admit, the signal is very good. I've never had any instances where it's cut out on me. So what you do have to do is you have to run the wires over to your battery. Let me just get over the plow here. So I ran the wires over and over here. And the unit comes with a breaker system that hooks up directly to your battery. And then there's another wire that runs through the front grille. I chose the option of cutting a hole through my grille to mount the actual plug, simply because I have another grille. If I ever decide to take it off, I'm not worried about having holes in it. And yeah, the wiring was fairly simple. Finding a nice place to put it on this vehicle was a little bit tough, but overall the installation went well. The instructions were very clear. I had no problems with the instructions. But let me tell you a little bit about the issues I'm having with this breaker right from the first day that I actually used it. So now the reason for the breaker on this unit is to prevent damage to the electrical system of your vehicle. So if the plow, when it gets cold, if you can imagine, any electrical motor takes more amperage. If it does overheat, the breaker is intended to kill the power to the plow until it cools, and then it will resume or reset itself once it's cooled off. Now I've had issues since the beginning with this unit. Halfway through plowing the road or doing whatever I have to do, the breaker will kick out. I have to give it 3-4 minutes. The breaker will come back on. I do find that the pump and the motor do draw a lot of juice, because when you do hit the buttons up and down, you definitely see the headlights dim. I replaced the battery in the truck. That helped a little bit with a brand new battery, but still having those issues. The reason why I think I'm having those issues is because the speed of the plow, the up and down and the side to side speed, if I was going to say anything about it, they're way too fast. So there are set screws on the solenoids that you can turn in and turn out to restrict fluid flow to those cylinders. And what it does, it'll slow the blade down so that when you're hitting the side, it's not smacking to one side, smacking to the other. smacking up. Or when I first turned it on, I lifted it and I hit the down button, the blade just dropped, boom. I found that very, very dangerous. So what I have done is I've screwed those set screws in enough that I get still a fast motion up, but a slower motion down, and I tried to slow the motion from side to side. So my belief why that thing keeps overheating is because I've restricted the flow of the actual fluid so much that the pump's working a little bit harder. So I don't know what the manufacturer can do to repair that. If they can fix it, I don't know if it's smaller hoses, whatever it might be, but SNOWBEAR, if you're watching, I definitely think that's a big issue with this plow, is the speed at which the controls operate it side to side without smacking it all over the place and or accidentally hitting the down button and dropping it on your foot in 1.1 seconds. So if I have a major complaint about this unit, that is the biggest one. Do something about the hydraulics on it, and I think it would be a fantastic unit. For what I use it for, I'm probably pushing the plow a little bit further than what its intent was. I think it was designed to push snow down a straight driveway and lift it up. I do have quite a long area that I do plow, and I do have to actually bank up and down. I did contact the company about the breaker kicking out, and I instantly got a response. I was very pleased with that. Wasn't pleased with the response I got right off the bat. They were assuming it was an older plow. Even though in my email I told them it was new, they were telling me to check for corrosion here, corrosion there at this plug. You know, all things I know I didn't have. I did do a draw test. I checked for shorts to ground through the power cables, making sure, you know, that I wasn't getting any excess amperage that was being pulled. Everything checked out, so I just dropped it right there. It was well within a year of its warranty, but you know, I'm not going to complain for the $4,500, and for the time it does save me. Yeah, it's worth it. All right, another issue I was having with the unit, or that I have been having with the unit, is these welds that are on the main bracket. This bracket bolts to the actual chassis. These welds here keep failing. They keep cracking and splitting. Now, like I said, I am using it probably to the extent of its use limit. But however, I am not abusing it. I'm not beating it up against snowbanks. I'm not striking objects, not doing any of that. I just think that these welds, or this particular piece right here, should be a solid weld, maybe with holes drilled inside to allow the water to come out. So here, this is the passenger side. It's still okay after we re-welded it last year, and I'll just bring you around to the driver's side. So here's the driver's side one. As you can see, this one's going to require repair again. Again, like I said, had they have welded it, you know, a full weld or a half weld down, I think that would have been much more structurally sound, and maybe wouldn't be as prone to failure. Now, the assembly of the unit went fairly well. I did have issues with holes lining up when I was installing or putting the blade section together. I had a real hard time getting these pins in on all those sides. Again, with this unit, they don't mention anything about general maintenance in the unit or in the manual. So I myself, I will make sure that I pull all of these pins every year. I grease them up, all these spots here. Grease them up, oil them up, even this section here because it pivots side to side. Here's something else that I changed on the unit. I went to a full rotational caster. The wheels that came with it were just a straight locked wheel. So that didn't give me the ability when I pulled it off the vehicle to be able to push it sideways. And I replaced these. These are intended, they're on there with a pin. And the intent to these guys here is when you're taking the plow off, you can drop them down so it's a little bit easier to roll around your garage. And then when you're done with them, they flip up like so. Pin goes back in there and you can lock them in place. But these are definitely an upgrade. Love these. Another problem I'm having with the unit after repeated bleeding from those fittings is when I lower it. Let's turn the unit on. I'm gonna hit down. The unit is now down. When I hit up, I'm gonna hit down again. I'm gonna go up again. It has a tendency to keep turning. So what eventually happens after a few downs and ups, the unit keeps turning on me. and before you know it, it's almost at a 45-degree angle. Now, they did say in their instructions that that is probably air in the system. I have not been able to find any air in the system, so that's another issue. All right, I know it sounds like I just keep complaining about it and keep complaining about it, but I do like it. I'm very satisfied with it. It has its issues, but don't get me wrong, it's been a godsend. It has really helped me out. So another issue I'm having with it, or that I did have with it, is the fittings down here. Every time I would tighten them, you know when you're tightening something and then you get that feeling that I shouldn't probably go any tighter than I'm going. That's how these felt. Every time I would give them a little tighten, I'd use the plow once or twice and they would come loose and I'd lose all my hydraulic fluid. Not sure what the fix is for that. Maybe some better fittings, I'm not sure. So I did give them a really good crank last season and they have not come loose or leaked on me. Once again, maybe it's just because I was being a little too ginger with them or smooth, I'm not sure, but these were a little bit of an issue. My last complaint, I promise, is the actual bracket. Now, if you look at that bracket, it's still leaning downwards. The factory bracket I found had too much of an angle this way, which didn't give me enough clearance here. So driving down the road, I kept striking the road with that bracket. So what I ended up doing was I put a 2-inch, or sorry, a leveling kit on the front struts on the truck. That helped a great deal, but still wasn't enough to give me that clearance that I actually needed. So what ended up happening is I couldn't even travel a couple of kilometers down the road, because as you can imagine, that's a lot of weight on the front of the vehicle. And when you get the bouncing of the vehicle, it would come down and strike the pavement and make a lot of noise. This here would strike the pavement. So what I ended up doing was I removed the bracket from the truck, I drilled some new holes, and I moved the bracket up probably at this angle here, and re-welded the holes that were there, and that worked out just fine. All right, let's get the wheels dropped on it. We're gonna remove it from the truck, and then we're gonna try and weld up those brackets. All right, we just got those brackets welded up. It's a little hazy in there. So we're gonna give that a few minutes to clear some of the smoke. And then we'll maybe touch it up with some paint. Alrighty guys, I just welded up those brackets and I just gave them a little coat of paint. So I know those are good for another season, I'm hoping. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm going to take apart some of the pins and we're gonna give some grease, put some grease in all of these very important pivot spots. And then we'll put it back on the truck. All right guys, so that's it. She's all welded up. I painted the spots that I think needed to be painted. And in terms of checking the oil, very simple. This cap right here. Pull that out. Look inside, lots of oil in there. Close her back up. All right, and I think we're ready to go for the winter. All right guys, that's the end of this video, the review and the repair of my SNOWBEAR fully hydraulic snow plow. I know it sounds like I was complaining a lot about the plow, and there are some things, many things that I would change or that I don't like about the unit. All in all, I think it does the job. I mean, can they improve on the product? 100%. All in all guys, that's the plow on my Avalanche. We're ready to go for the winter. Bring on the snow, and then we can get that thing going and running. And I gotta do a carb adjustment on it before the season starts, so that's something else exciting that's gonna be coming. Again, thanks for watching. I appreciate every one of the viewers. I appreciate you stopping by. If you like it, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe to catch some new episodes coming up, click subscribe. And if you really like it, tell a friend, because that's what's important. Anyway, thanks again guys. We'll talk to you soon.